Alright, so we're going to do this worksheet here, number 5. We're going to solve word problems again, so similar as in the last unit. So I picked the first 2 questions. And again, the advantage of doing it this way, you watch the video, 10-15 minutes, come to class, and get the rest of the time to do the homework. Alright, so I'm going to switch over to a blank page here where I just have the first 2 questions. Alright, so let's size it up. On a forward somersault, Greg's height in meters above the water is given by this equation. You see this in a quadratic equation. The graph is negative, which means it points down. So we have a diving board. And Greg is here, his arms are in the air, and he's going to jump up. Let's add some water here. Concrete's not a good thing. So Greg's going to jump up and hit the water. So what makes this a graph for us now is, let's look at it this way. His height above the water is measured in meters, and time is measured in seconds. And that came from the description there. So just as when Greg has stood on the diving board and hasn't jumped, the time will be 0. As soon as he jumps in the air, the clock starts. We're going to measure how long it takes for him to go up, come back down to the water. So question A, how long does it take him to hit the water? In the last unit, we would have went through and you would have found the vertex. You could find his height from the last unit. You could find the maximum height, the time when he would have reached that. But unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to find out when he hit the water. So the limits from the last unit is that you would get the height and the time, this maximum height and time, but you wouldn't have found out when he hit the water. When Greg hits the water, his height is actually 0. So when does this graph? Instead of writing h here now, we have a height. Height is 0 meters. You could try factoring using sum and product. So you have 5, negative 5 times 3, negative 15. What are 2 factors to negative 15? Add to give you 6. Factors 15 are 3 and 5, and 1 and 15. No way to combine these to get a positive 6. So you have to use the quadratic formula. So my first step is try and factor. That's usually quicker. When that doesn't work, I'll go to quadratic formula. So negative b plus or minus b squared subtract 4ac all over 2a and square root. So negative 6, my b value is 6. 4 times a times c. The a value is negative 5. C value is 3. You're going to take the square root of this. All over 2 times a, which is negative 5. (36 squared is 36. 4 times 5 is 20, times 3 is 60. Now within the workings you have a negative times a negative, so it will be a positive 60. So again, 4 times 5 is 20, times 3 is 60, negative times negative, positive. So the usual caution is just watch this sign here. And let me write that 2 times negative 5, that's negative 10. So negative 6 plus or minus square root of 96 all over -10. Okay, now here it's alright to work out decimal answer because we're talking about counting time. Exact answers aren't going to make much sense to people. So decimals are okay, they're expected. So square root of 96. So -6 plus or minus. And I'll do it to one decimal place. 9.8 all over -10. Okay, so first answer, -6 plus 9.8 all over -10. Second answer, -6 subtract 9.8 divided by -10. Alright, let's work both out. So you get 3.8 divided by -10, which is -0.38 seconds. We'll come back to this in a moment. This was -15.8 divided by -10. You fix that 8 there. And you get negative divided by negative, you get a positive 1.58 seconds. Now put the units in. Okay, this is a story question, so give it the context. Alright, one answer we're going to reject because it won't make sense in our situation. Although it is a root, the graph would come back, and change my pen color here. Alright, although the graph would come back on this side, and if we thought of it just in a math setting, yeah, you'd have -0.38. But in a real life setting, that doesn't make sense. So what happens here is that you end up rejecting an answer. When you need to reject an answer, state that you reject the answer. So Greg jumps, comes up, and hits the water. Right here in 1.58 seconds. So how long does it take to hit the water? It takes 1.58 seconds. Hit the water. B, the highest diving board. Well, we don't need to do any math for that. It's just understanding the formula. The y-intercept here is 3, so it would be 3 meters. And B, diving board. It's 3 meters high. Alright, question number 2. A bullet was shot vertically into the air from a balcony. Its height 8 meters above the ground after t seconds described by the equation. Alright, so another situation here of a quadratic. The graph is negative, so we'll point down. You don't have to do sketch. Sometimes people find it useful. So height is in meters, time is in seconds. So someone's doing a science experiment. They're here on a balcony. So let's put the building over here, on the balcony, and they shoot an object into the air. And what goes up must come down. We know that the balcony will be 25 meters. By the way, this is my building. It's 25 meters above the ground. So from the last unit, if I asked you here, what was the maximum height reached by the bullet, you could do that. You get your axis of symmetry, you find the time when it reached the max height, put that back into the equation, and you would find the maximum height. In this chapter, we're more interested in now, well, how long does it take for it to hit the ground? Looking at this, we would expect two answers. So we're going to have to go through here, do some math. You're going to find there's going to be a negative answer and positive answer. Because if we extend the graph back, think about it just as a graph. It's going to go up and come down. We're not interested in this side of the graph over here. We're only interested in the positive portion of the movement. Positive in terms of time. So the positive section here. So how long does it take the bullet to hit the ground? Well, when the bullet hits the ground, the height should be 0. So we have 5, 10, and 25. You could jump into quadratic formula. You could try sum and product, see if that will work. First thing I would suggest is if you look at all your coefficients, your A, B, and your C, they all have a common number that could be divided by, which is 5. So you could do this. Take both sides of the equation and divide by 5. You would like to do that, so long as you do it to both sides. I'm going to end up dividing by negative 5. Because I'd like for this t squared to be positive. So negative 5 divided by negative 5 is a positive t squared. If I left it just as 5, I'd get a negative, and I don't want to mess with negatives. 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. 25 divided by negative 5 is negative 5. 0 divided by negative 5 is still 0. You end up working with smaller numbers. You go ahead and do this with quadratic formula. It'll work. It's just bigger numbers. Check to make sure signs are right. Negative divided by negative is positive. Positive divided by negative is negative. Positive divided by negative is negative. And that should be 0. Now let's go ahead and use our quadratic formula. We're going to say t. If you end up saying x, that's fine, but just remember you're finding values of t here, time. So you get negative and negative b, which is negative 2 plus or minus b squared. Subtract 4 times a times c all over 2 times whatever the a value is. So your b value is negative 2. Your a value is 1 from t squared. Your c value is negative 5. And take the square root. The a value is 1 again. So negative and negative, positive. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times 1, 4 times 5 is 20. And negative times a negative should give us a positive. Two plus or minus square root 24 all over 2. So first answer, 2 plus square root 24. Square root 24 is 4.9. 2. Second answer, 2 minus 4.9. And I should say t equals over here. So you get 6.9 over 2. Which is 3.45 seconds. Here you get negative 2.9 over 2. negative 1.45. We can't have negative time, so this answer is rejected. So how long does it take the bullet to hit the ground? It takes 3.45 seconds. Bullet to hit ground. Alright. C. How long does it take to first reach a height of 28.75 meters? Alright, let's get in here now and clean this up a little. Alright, so some point along its path, the bullet has to reach, and we'll just say 28.75 meters. It's here, at that height. So if we just extend across, think about it. The bullet travels up, starting from 25. It has to reach 28.75. It keeps going higher. So it reaches the height, the max height. Then on its way back down, it's got to reach 28.75 again. So we'll reach this height twice. We want to know first time. Alright, so we take our equation, negative 5t squared plus 10t plus 25. We have to start with the original equation. Don't start with the one here that we had factored down. Okay, so height negative 5t plus 10t plus 25. Double check just to make sure this is down right. And the height is going to be set to 28.75, so I don't need to say height here anymore. I'm going to give the height a value. Take your value that you put in for height, bring it over to the other side, and you're going to combine it with the 25. So negative 5t squared plus 10t. So it's 25 subtract 28.75 equals 0. So negative 5t squared plus 10t and you get negative 3.75 when you subtract. We don't have a common variable to take out here, so we drop right into the quadratic formula. So negative b value, your b value is 10, plus minus b squared subtract 4 times a times c two times negative 5. Ten squared is 100. Negative times a negative times another negative will be a negative. So 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 3.75 is 75. Square root of negative 10. So, two answers. You're going to have negative 10 plus or minus 5 divided by negative 10. So, first answer, Tom will equal negative 10 plus 5 over negative 10. Negative 10 subtract 5. I wrote both out before solving them. Just so you remember to do both. It's up to you. If you don't think you're going to forget, go ahead, do the first one, solve it, and start the second one. But at least if I start the second one, I know I have to come back to it. So negative 5 over negative 10 is positive 0.5 seconds. Again, where it's a story problem, we're going to use decimal answers. I'm not going to keep it as a fraction. Here you have negative 15 over negative 10, and you end up with positive 1.5 seconds. We're going to reject this answer because the question said, when does it first reach the height? It reaches that height first at 0.5 seconds. This is an S. So here, this is what we found. Reaches the height at 0.5 seconds the first time. We don't care or not concerned with that it reaches 28.75 on the way back down. And what's asking here, how long does it take to reach a height of 30 meters? Same sort of situation. Should end this with a little statement. It takes 0.5 seconds to first reach 28.75 meters. And now do the next one. Negative 5. Start with your equation. I could say equals h, but we know the height is 30. Bring the 30 over, so you need any variables or any numbers used on the left side. Bring the 30 over with the 25. When it comes over, it becomes negative. So 25 take away 30 is a negative 5. 5, 10, and negative 5, they can all be divided by negative 5. So divide both sides by negative 5 here, and you get t squared, negative 2t, and positive 1. Negative divided by negative, positive. Positive divided by negative, negative. Negative divided by negative, positive. Do a little quick check on your signs before we continue. And here are the two factors of negative 1 that can add to give us negative 2. So I'm not going to drop right into the quadratic formula. Still check to see if factoring can help, because it is it is faster. And it does. What factors of 1 do you have that can add to give you a negative 2? Well, 1 is 1 times 1. If both were negative, they would multiply to give me the positive 1. They would add to give me negative 2. So you have this. T minus 1 times t minus 1 equals 0. So you can take this one, break it down to sum and product. So the line down, you only need to do one side. T minus 1 equals 0. T equals 1. So it takes 1 second to reach 30 meters. Because it's a double root here, an answer, then what we're looking at is that will be our maximum height. It only has that value, only 1 second is showing up there. So that must be your maximum height. Anyway, this one was a little bit longer, but again, working through 2 story problems. So we've got A, B, and C parts, so it does take a little bit of time.